Welcome to eProtect. I'm excited to announce the launch of a brand new series here on the channel. It's called DriveBack. This series is all about revisiting the cars that made the road what it is today, the ones that shaped design, inspired innovation, or just stood out for being different. Today, we're rewinding to the early 2000s, a time when Toyota built something so simple, so practical, that most people didn't know what to make of it. This is the Toyota Echo, a small, lightweight sedan that quietly challenged everything we thought we wanted in a car. Launched in 1999 and running through 2005, the Echo was Toyota's answer to affordable, efficient transportation, especially for new drivers and city commuters. Underneath, it shared DNA with the legendary Yaris, small, bulletproof, and built to last. But on the outside, it looked, well, a little different. With its tall, upright stance, narrow body, and near cartoonish proportions, it didn't exactly win beauty contests. Yet what it lacked in style, it made up for in character and durability. The Echo's 1.5-liter engine was nearly indestructible, capable of squeezing out close to 40 miles per gallon, while still being one of the easiest cars to maintain in Toyota's lineup. But here's the thing, in a world moving toward bigger, sleeker, and more tech heavy cars, the Echo was almost too honest. It wasn't trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly what made it special. By 2005, production wrapped up and the Echo quietly disappeared, replaced by the Yaris. But even today, these little sedans still pop up on the roads, in driveways, and on salvage lots like Copart, where each one tells a story about how simple engineering can outlast time itself. So, in this episode, we're taking a drive back to rediscover what made the Echo so special and why this small, forgotten car still deserves a spot in car history. So, now we'll be taking a look at the market for the Echo. For that, we'll be using Carfax, which is one of the most recognized vehicle history platforms in the US. It's where buyers, sellers, and even repair professionals go to see how cars have held up over time. From maintenance records to the ownership history, Carfax gives us a window into the car's past, and in this case, what's still out there today. It's a great way to see how many Echoes are still on the road, what kind of condition they're in, and how their values have aged over time. And before we begin looking at the market, just a disclaimer, all Carfax footage shown here is used under fair use for educational and analytical purposes. This video isn't sponsored or affiliated with Carfax, it's just for discussion and review. So now let's dive into the market on the Toyota Echo. So in the entire USA on Carfax, there's only 12 Echoes for sale, which shows that this car is becoming very rare because there's only 12 listings in the entire country. So let's take a look at some of them and see how they held up. So this one's a 2003 Toyota Echo for $6,000 with only 60,000 miles. That's really minimal mileage for the years of this car being over 20 years old. It looks like there's some scuffing on the front bumper, some wear on the steering wheel, scuffing scratches on the rear bumper. The interior seems very clean, and we can see that the paint, hasn't faded that much. The clear coat seems well taken care of. Some more scuffing on the rear bumper, but overall, the body on this one is in good shape, and we can see that the dashboard is very basic. It's not like the modern day vehicles with all the LED screens and the technology and the sensors. And this one's nice because it has powered windows. For a 2003, that's very nice. So yeah, let's take a look at some more. Let's look at this 2003 Echo Base. So this one has only 43,000 miles at a cost of $8,000. So this one has less mileage than the one we looked at. This one looks like it's in great condition. The clear coat seems well taken care of. The paint seems well taken care of. The interior looks clean. This one's a two-door. I believe the one we looked at previously was a four-door. And yep, we see the 43,000 miles, which is very low for a car this age, over 20 years old. And yeah, this one's a one owner, pretty nice for $8,000. So let's see which other Echoes stand out. Let's take a look at this one. It's a four-door Echo with a nice gold color, and immediately the paint looks very nice and looks clean. The interior looks spotless, and Yeah, the rear seats are very roomy. It seems like it could be a good family car for those who have a family. And the engine bay looks detailed. So this one looks very nice, very clean. 124,000 miles, one owner. So the person who owned this seemed to really take care of it. And let's see which other one stands out. Let's look at another two-door. So we see this red one. It's a 2003 for $4,000 with 162,000 miles. We can see immediately that the paint on the hood and the paint on the aperture, the quarter panel, seems to have been faded, due to age, the sunlight, and other factors. And we can see the interior looks a little bit rough with some staining and stretching. This one's a manual transmission, which is interesting. I feel like nowadays not too many people know how to drive manual cars, and yeah, we can definitely see a lot of fading on the trunk. It almost seems like it's like a replacement part because like it doesn't really match the rear bumper at all too much, but it could just be fading. And yeah, so if this car had a paint job, it would definitely stand out and be a lot more cleaner. But at the cost of $4,000 in the market for this car, I don't think anyone would pay that money to repaint this vehicle. 162,000 miles, which is nice. And, it's a two-door, but it has back seats for rear passengers. So let's look at one more. Let's take a look at this 2003 Echo. It has 126,000 miles with $6,000 cost. This one's been in an accident and it's a two-owner car. So this one's silver and it's a four-door. Um, this one has a black steering wheel. It's probably a an actual sportier version of the car. Some scuff, yeah, some scratches on the rear bumper, and yeah, I like how the interior looks. It's kind of reminds me of the Matrix or the Corolla in a way. Um, and yeah, the back seats once again spacious, good for a family, and the textured plastic really complements the car. It looks very sporty. And yeah, I mean, overall, this one's a pretty nice body, pretty good condition for the age and the mileage of only 124,000. So now we're in Copart. This is one of the largest online vehicle auction platforms in the world, where many of these older vehicles end up after an accident or when they're no longer roadworthy. Just a disclaimer before we begin. All Copart footage shown here is used under fair use for educational and analytical purposes. This video isn't sponsored or affiliated with Copart, it's just for discussion and review. So let's get started on the Toyota Echoes. When searching the Toyota Echo at Copart, there were 42 matches in the entire country, which just goes to show that this vehicle is becoming a lot more rare as the years progress. So we'll start taking a look at some of these Echoes and see how time has, treated them. So let's see this 2003 Toyota Echo. This one has 148,000 miles, with primary damage being the front end and secondary damage being the side, with the estimated retail value of 4415. So let's examine the photos. We can see here that it's missing a hubcap. There's some fading in the paint, which is standard of a old vehicle like this, and we can see that there's a dent on the right quarter panel on the lower side, and this dent seems to be in a pretty bad place. Right under the right tail lamp, and we can see that the molding on the quarter panel and even the right rear door has been taken off. This probably was damaged in the accident, and we can see that the fender took a big hit, and also the wheel is bent. The front right wheel. We can even see that the hood is out of place. You can see the gap is not, straight. It's not in one symmetry. And we can see the bumper has detached from the fender. And it seems like the right headlamp is damaged. And the front bumper is also damaged and the emblem's missing. So for a vehicle this age and the mileage, this is something that wouldn't really be repaired just due to the low market value. Um, and yeah, it seems like the engine looks good, and this vehicle likely runs and drives, but just due to the damage, this wouldn't be repaired. So let's take a look at some more Toyota Echoes. Let's see which one stands out. So we can see this 2001 Toyota Echo. This one has 309,000 miles, which is just a testament of how good these engines ran and how good this vehicle was in terms of being reliable. We can see that the primary damage is rear end with an estimated retail value of 1,656. So let's take a look at this car. So immediately in the first photo, we can see that the left quarter panel, the left side, and the rear just took a really big impact. We can see that this quarter panel, needs to be replaced. The door needs to be replaced. Suspension seems to have taken a big hit. Um, and yeah, this one's a pretty big one. The rear bumper even seems like it pushed into the trunk, and this will require body work, framework to get back to pre-loss condition. And on the other side, we can see that it seems to be fine on the other side. We can see the spare tire on the front right wheel. We can see some scuffing and some damage on the front end. So yeah, I mean, with the age of this vehicle and the 300,000 miles, this definitely wouldn't be repaired. It's just too much damage to consider fixing this, and it would cost more to fix this than what it would, take to buy another Toyota Echo with less mileage. So this one is unfortunately one that will not make it most likely to future years to be a driving vehicle again. So let's look at this one. Seems like it took a pretty big front impact. This is a 2005 Toyota Echo with primary damage being the front end, secondary damage being the rear, with the estimated retail value of 4173. So we can see that it seems like the brunt of the impact was the front end. The left fenders pushed forward. We can see the gap between the fender and the left aperture is very tight, showing that it got pushed. And we can see that there's a biohazard sticker. So when we see these stickers, that means there's some sort of fluid in the car, such as blood or something that would require special handling. And I believe that's the airbag deployed, and the rear bumper cover is missing from the car. And we can see on the right side, we can see that the fender got pushed forward. Same thing with the aperture. That gap is, not in alignment. That reinforcement bar, um, seems bent. And with a front end impact like this, the radiator, condenser, support for the radiator, the hood, the grill, all these things would need to be replaced. And it seems here that well, the reinforcement doesn't look bent in this one, so it might just be the rear bumper cover that was, detached from the vehicle. Oh, it's actually in the vehicle and seems to, be scuffed up. And yeah, we can see the airbag, driver airbag, passenger airbag, and yeah, they have that absorbent, sand to, soak up any fluids, anything like that. And yeah, this one seems to be rough on the interior with the garbage inside and the staining. So it didn't seem like this cart was well taken care of. And but it lasted pretty long. Oh well, sorry, we don't have the mileage for this one, but yeah, this one wouldn't be repaired due to the nature of the damages. So let's see some more Toyota Echoes. This one looks very interesting. Wow. So this one is a Canadian car. Seems like it's in Ontario. This one has 281,000 miles. Primary damage rear end, secondary damage front end, with an estimated retail value of 2,700 Canadian. So I'm not sure what that is in the US, but let's take a look at it because I've never seen a Toyota Echo that looks like this. So First picture, it looks pretty clean. Second picture, we can see that the rear bumper is slightly detached from the brackets, and now we see the damage on the right side. Seems like the quarter panel took the brunt of the impact, and seems like the suspension also was impacted because that wheel seems to be pushed backwards, and it has a signal on the fender, which is pretty nice. It might just have been a Canadian thing where they produced the vehicle differently in that country, and it's missing this trim piece. It seems like that entire piece is damaged in a way, and it's an RS. I've never heard of an RS, but if you guys know anything about that, please let me know in the comments. Yeah, so this one's a special one. It's a Canadian. It's different. Um, yeah, the interior looks pretty nice. Seems like an aftermarket stereo system and 281,000 miles, or that might be kilometers. I'm not sure, but yeah, this one lived a long life, and yeah, it's nice to look at this. And I guess due to the nature of how old this vehicle is and the mileage, a repair, I mean, an accident like this could easily set it above threshold for repair. So let's look at one more. Let's see one that stands out. Let's look at this red one. So Copart says the engine starts, transmission engages, and just a disclaimer. When they say that, it means that the car actually starts and the transmission shifts, but it doesn't mean that there's no damage to the engine or transmission. This one has 237,000 miles, primary damage front end, secondary, minor dent scratches. So let's take a look at it. Um, so straight from the first photo, based on the mileage of over 200,000, the paint seems very clean. We can see the damage to the right front. Um, the left side seems fine. Body seems intact. The right side looks okay except for the fender. So let's get into the front end. So the fender got dented throughout the panel. The front of the fender is crushed, and it seems like the fender got pushed into the aperture panel, and we can see that the hood is completely bent. Seems like the right fender structural part of the fender is pushed backwards, and yeah, this is a pretty strong front impact. Right headlamp is gone. New it would need a new bumper, new hood, and some internal components that were bent. So the rear looks fine. Some fading on the rear bumper and trunk. No airbags deployed in this one, and it looks like there's some staining on the seats. And 237,000 miles, and yeah, we can see radiator support push forward. Um, and yeah, so this one took a pretty heavy hit, and for the age of the vehicle, and once again the mileage, this is something that really wouldn't be repaired. But this one would be a good part car because all the other parts are in really good condition. Someone that needs a door, uh, even the quarter panel, they can section it, cut that out, and use it. So this would be a good part car. So in the country, there's 42 Echoes on Copart. These are no longer on the road as of now. And yeah, so Copart is a good platform to research cars and to see the history of what happened to many of these cars. And this is a history of the Echo and what's left. And that's it for the first episode of DriveBack. This series is all about revisiting the cars that made the road what it is today. And this is just a start. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.